I'm Tony for Execunet. Thanks as always for tuning in. When the financial crisis rocked the business world just over a decade ago, boardrooms turned to corporate finance chiefs for sound decisions. The COVID-19 pandemic presents a different challenge and highlights the role of another corporate function, the human resources executive. Joining me today to talk about the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead is Paul Stefunek. Paul is Vice President Practice Leader with GattiHR, the largest full-cycle HR specialty search firm in the US. Paul, with that, it is so good to be talking to you.
Thank you, Tony. It's a real pleasure and honor to be talking with you as well. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that. So what is GattiHR focused on these days, Paul?
So as a 35-year strong brand and experts in the HR discipline, we've widened our lens to reflect the expertise of our whole staff. And although HR is the largest practice we have, we're focused on supply chain, manufacturing, digital. They've taken us into some very complex and interesting spaces.
Cool. So tell me about the current state of hiring. What are you noticing these days?
So not that in case someone watches delayed, we're doing this during the COVID crisis. So our clients are telling us they want actually more and deserve more than just the relationship. Leadership attributes and strategic fit, the assessments are key. So is the ongoing support for the executives that we place. That's why we provide to every leader we place with access to our workforce analytics team for their first year.
Mm-hmm. So as we think about retained search, and certainly that's a part of the GattiHR wheelhouse, of course, the organization specializes as well in workforce analytics and talent optimization and HR technology services. So let's talk a bit about the chief people officers and people who have different but identical titles at the same time. How have some of their duties changed over the last couple of months? What is the organization sensing about that?
That's a good question. I'd say in the last few years, there's been more improvements in HR tech than in the last 2 decades. 20% of all the VC investments in those last couple of years have been in HR tech. So good talent instincts are no longer enough. The data-driven insight producing talent management practices are now the baseline. So CPOs, chief people officers who get that, they're using firms like ours to give them the real tangible competitive edge and information they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. So top of mind for the CPOs, but I'll broaden the question to include CEOs and anyone else who leads companies. Top of mind, of course, are employee health and morale. And with that, of course, concerns for organizational health and productivity. What guidance does GattiHR have for leaders who might be struggling to maintain the company's health and productivity during the pandemic?
I would say that the current crisis confirms and strengthens what we truly believe. Employee engagement's the huge differentiator. Discretionary effort, going the extra couple of feet in everything employees do is truly essential. And it only comes from a workforce that's safe, it's focused, it's undistracted by the stress that comes from the health and welfare concerns. So these things go far beyond just medical and dental. And they don't have to be expensive. I'd say the financial, education, student debt, the educational support, innovative workplaces are all within reach for these organizations. So are the policies, the practices that are written for the 97% who truly have the best interests of the company in mind, not for the 3% that might not. That would be probably our best way to address that question.
Right. So what do leaders need to be thinking about now and planning for in the coming months, Paul? There is a light at the end of this tunnel. We don't know how long the tunnel is exactly, but something will come out of this. So what would you recommend leaders be thinking about as we all begin to emerge from this crisis?
I think where we are in this, Tony, is that uncertainty, and we're being teased with a good word of relaunch. So companies are truly focusing on relaunching, and we all know that doors are not just going to open 100% fully and you just flow right in. The whole transformation, remote work, is definitely here to stay, and so are remote operators. The entire workforce has been thrown into free agency, and for so many, this experience will have them thinking very hard about the opportunities, what impacts both the employee and the employer balance. So beyond relaunch, the next is part of that challenge is digital. So yes, we're doing this by Zoom, and I mean not just digital tools, but just keeping an eye on digital. One of our client relationships, Matalux Vault, they're focusing on their digital spend. They're trying to focus on brand awareness, the authenticity, their social spend. They're proving that if you pivot your business, you can achieve your maximum results. So I would just say relaunch and digital is something they have to continue to focus on.
Okay. So you said a couple of words I want to isolate. You said brand, you said authenticity, you said social, but I want to kind of change the context and go back to executive job search for just a moment. We have a lot of executives who are in search or were planning to be in search before all of this happened. When we construct an approach that we could together deliver to them right here, right now, what does executive job search as a matter of strategy really need to look like now, Paul?
So answering that from the candidate perspective?
From the recruiter's perspective, and certainly the candidate will hear this and say, that's what I need to implement right now.
So from recruiter's perspective, we are, there's many of us in the bullpen waiting to be put in because the number of jobs out there are very few and far between, and every candidate that is either carefully listening or actively pursuing, we're all anxious right now. And you have to be creative, you have to be, we all want to be aggressive and be there, but in all honesty, no one wants to be sold right now. They want their problem solved, and we all have to realize that. You do that with offering and helping. So we're trying to help our clients solve the challenges they're faced with. We're trying to help candidates with their messaging. So we're reaching out to both pieces of this and being a resource that's trying to be helpful.
Terrific. Well, Paul, thanks for your time and your perspective, and I'm eager to pass it along to our wider audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.